please welcome my guest for this evening, Bun.
Am I allowed to talk now?
Yes, you're allowed to talk now.
Hello!
All right, we're off to a great start. Welcome on in, Bun. Oh, that is a particularly fun username here. Oh, got a couple actually. Let's see here. Lil Crispy 01, Tuigi the Phantom, J Sizzle TG, Flox Lunarius, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm allowed to say this one on Twitch. I'm figuring it is because they allowed the username to exist. Is this one of your regular followers or is this a troll?
Yes, that's one of mine. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. Honestly, that makes me feel a lot better because I know that it's not, a bot or a troll. So I'm glad. Welcome on in, Cat P Fetish, to the show.
We love
Welcome
Cat
to the
P.
audience.
We love Cat P.
Thank you for making it this evening. Well, I had a couple of different plans for how this show was going to go, how I was going to kick things off. That Vtuber Talk is not really scripted, but, I always talk with my guests in advance, and we usually just set aside a couple topics we know are going to be fun and easy things to talk about, just, giving ourselves that foundation. And, Bun, we were already live. We were on the starting soon screen mere minutes ago when you dropped the little fact to me. It was like, oh yeah, by the way, my mom's watching tonight, so I might need to be a bit more restrained. And that just changes everything, by which I mean I don't really think it changes anything.
It changes nothing.
It doesn't change anything at all. But it does give me a lot of really fun, different questions to work with that I hadn't been expecting. So, I suppose I'll sort of set the stage for myself. My parents do not know about Vtuber Talk. And
really?
That Vtuber Talk I very much set up as something just small and fun for me. I am positive my parents would be supportive of it. They have been extremely supportive of it, and I know that your mom is supportive. Obviously, she's taking time out of her day to see you on someplace that isn't even your own channel, and that's fantastic. For me, it's just, I enjoy having this fun little secret that is just, I don't need to worry about anyone unexpected tuning in, and I get to just have this small, happy thing to myself. If folks want to mess with that, I am running a charity marathon in January for my 2nd anniversary, which you will be invited to, Bun. And the gag big donation goal is if we raise $10,000, I will call my parents live on stream and tell them about Vtuber Talk. So, I like my secret, but I'll break that secret for charity. But that means that I will not be able to identify necessarily as much with your situation, but at the same time, I'm so curious. At what point in your VTuber journey did you tell your mom about it?
My mom has known I was a streamer since before I was a VTuber. I actually used to stream from her house when I was still just like a little muted art streamer. And I'm very, very close with my mom, so she knows everything. Like, she knew when I was making my old model. I showed her when I was making my new model. I told her when I was gonna do all this. She's watched some of my VODs before. She's pretty much always known that I'm a VTuber, but she is one of the only people in like my IRL space that knows I'm a VTuber. Okay,
so you've told her, but that it's still a more contained thing for you, IRL, so to speak. So that's really nice, and I'm so happy that you have that type of relationship where with your mom, where you're comfortable letting her know. And I suppose, to be fair, it also probably would have been a bit more difficult to hide that fact since you started streaming while you were living in the same house as her.
Yeah.
I do have the advantage of living alone in a small studio apartment and not having to worry about roommates or other people that I'm disturbing, regardless of what hour of day or night I end up having my show. It is a convenience for sure.
Yeah, I used to, because when I was in college, I really only streamed on my breaks. I couldn't really stream during the semester. So if I went to visit her, I would sometimes stream while I was still with her. And, she knew it. She was respectful, and she'd be quiet for me. And I don't think I've ever tried to do a VTuber stream from her house because at this point I have a PC and I can't really take my setup with me. But I have shown her like on my phone how VTube Studio works and like how my model works and how all the pieces are cut. She actually thought it was really cool. So
yeah, while I haven't told my parents about VTuber Talk, I know that my parents are aware of what VTubers are, because one of the things that I've been pretty open with about on this channel is that I do a fair bit of convention and event work on the side just for fun, that I work anime conventions primarily, and that there were VTubers at one of the conventions that I worked this year. And you know, generally my parents are always going to ask, hey, what was going on at the convention you worked this weekend? Any highlights or anything? And I wound up having a hand in some of the operations that the guests at that show had. And I explained it to them. And my father had this really surprisingly apt comparison, which I never even thought of before. Have you ever read Ready Player One?
Yeah, I watched the movie. I never read the book.
Okay. The book is better than the movie, but the movie was actually still a lot of fun. That's one where they had
I enjoyed it.
It's fascinating because so many of the changes were licensing requirements, that things that you can put in a book but can't put visually on screen without license or approval. But anyway,
I mean, they still got a lot of it, didn't they? They had like Chucky and Sonic and all that in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, most of those were ones that weren't in the book.
Oh, really? Those are what they got for the movie?
Yeah, that there were certain ones that they couldn't get for the movie, but that in their place they got a whole slew of other ones that weren't in the book. So it was a really interesting dynamic to see which ones did and didn't appear, and then also by virtue of just, you know, which ones appeared that you didn't expect to see at all.
Oh, neat. I never knew that, actually, because I never read the book, so that's kind of cool.
But anyways, my father and I both read that book, and he had the comment of, oh, so it's like Parzival in Ready Player One, where, you know, he goes by the username Parzival and has an avatar that is not him, and that he has that anonymity. And I was like, holy cow, Dad, how have I never actually thought of it from that angle before? Because that is a perfect pop culture parallel.
It really is, honestly, to have the avatar in the name. And there's some VTubers, I think they're very open about being VTubers, and there's others that are more private about it, like I am.
Yeah, so there's obviously that really sliding spectrum. And honestly, that's part of the fun and nice part about it, that just VTubing gives you that option. And whether or not you take it is up to you, but that option doesn't exist in a lot of other forms of content creation.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that VTubing can have, you know, we can have streamers like Zentreya that protect their privacy to the point that they don't even use their real voice on stream. But then there's other VTubers that are totally okay with posting a bunch of selfies on their Twitter feed and, you know, doing IRL streams and VTubing streams at the same time. And it's such a, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, VTubing has opened up so many different avenues for content creation that we didn't have before.
Oh yeah, and honestly, that's part of what the appeal was for me, that, you know, I've watched streams and I've watched content creators for, you know, years and years and years. And part of the appeal for VTubers for me was not necessarily the fact of, oh, I don't know who the people are, and I'm someone who's never cared really one way or another. I don't get starstruck. I don't like autographs or things, so I don't really care to know or have that curiosity that some people have of, you know, like, oh, who's behind the model? Just, I found it interesting from the sheer standpoint of creativity and tool set, that folks get to present themselves like they're a chimera, and, you know, folks can have all these different augmentations or different creative designs, but then also the types of on-screen things that you can do as a VTuber is so much more than what a IRL streamer can do, that the Twitch integrated throwing system is not going to work for an IRL streamer. There's so many different things of, you know, you can pick up your model, drag it around, spin it upside down. IRL streamers can't do that. The number of physical gags that you can do is so much greater.
Yeah, it really is, honestly. Like, I have all these different things I do with my model. Like, I'm sure all of my followers that are in the chat will enjoy this one. It's a running joke with my community that I'm a dog.
Oh yes.
So, you know, I have this and I don't have to, I don't have to put on a costume. I don't have to get up and do anything extra. I just hit a button on my keyboard and this running joke is now gone for 6+ months and God, I fucking hate it here.
And yet it's still right there on your toggles.
We've also, I think most VTubers also have something like this going around.
Actually, that's one of the... No joke, that is one of the nicest clown mods I've seen.
Oh, thank you.
That is a flaw in the fact that you've actively changed the color of your hair other places. That I've seen folks who have a toggle and that, it will put a PNG of like a clown afro or something on it, or that they can do a rotating rainbow gradient. But you actually went through and, either you or the artist and... painted the different sections to be that different color palette. So that was really nice. I don't think I've actually seen that one.
I think EROS did something similar. That's where I got the inspiration for it.
Yeah, I've seen hers, yes. She has an emote for it too.
Yeah. And this is just something that, again, it's the innovation of the software that VTube Studio, you can do this now, And obviously, most VTubers are going to want to get their artist permission, but luckily, I am my own artist.
Aha!
So I do whatever the fuck I want.
That is
but
one
you
of
can
the
just
big
go in and change your colors. That's how I also have this one.
Yes. Oh, we're going to get to Pokemon, don't worry.
With my boy?
Yes. Do you have a shiny version, though?
I do. I have a shiny Dunsparce in Pokemon Scarlet now, it's only the 2 segment. Oh, on my model? No, I need to make it. I need to make one. I only have normal Dunsparce right now because he was my carry in my last charity Nuzlocke. He's my son and I love him.
How do you wind up with... I know Nuzlocks can end up weird. I'm trying to figure out, how does Dunsparce end up being carried? Was this a randomizer that had the moves randomized as well? That's the only way I can think of it, Dunsparce being that level of carry.
I didn't have the moves randomized, but I did have the Nuzlocke itself randomized. But he knew Rage, and I think the damage on Rage scales depending on their health or how much damage they've taken or something like that.
Yeah.
So he was very strong, but he also, as much as I don't like to talk about it, he perished about 4 times and chat revived him.
Oh, okay.
So
and that you were doing
he wasn't entirely a carry, but he was mostly my carry.
But if nothing else, he was just reincarnated enough to be a carry.
He was very special to all of us.
That's one of the fun things about Nuzlocks, of just, I didn't know that you'd done Nuzlocks. I'm not surprised at all to hear it. For anybody who, for some reason, might not know what a Nuzlocke is, that this is a particular type of running a Pokemon game where you can only catch the first Pokemon that you encounter in each route. They have to be nicknamed, and if they faint, they are gone. But there's a bunch of different variations. Some folks have software that lets you, like I'm saying, randomize the Pokemon that appear in each route. Sometimes you have things where the moves are randomized. So you could have a Dunsparce that knows, I don't know, Ice Beam for some random reason, or knows Aeroblast or Sacred Fire. And it can cause some really wacky things. And just as your pool of Pokemon that you have dwindles, you sometimes wind up with these unlikely heroes. And things can end up even more different, similar to this case, where you said this was Donathon?
Yeah, it was for a charity I've worked with for 2 years now. This is my 2nd year working with them. So I did a 3-day marathon, and I did a Pokemon Black randomized Nuzlocke.
And that
it was a good time.
And in this case, that folks could donate certain amounts to do different things and have an influence on the run.
So
and one of those things would be, donate a certain amount of money, and Pokemon that has fainted and would technically not be usable in a normal Nuzlocke run is now once again usable.
Yeah, I had like a revive option. I had an option that like I couldn't catch a Pokemon at all when I got on a route.
Well, that's
I had
brutal.
one that I could catch an extra, and then I also had it that like they could name the Pokemon if they wanted, stuff like that. So
What was the charity?
The charity's called StackUp.org. They're a really cool charity. Like I said, it's my second year working with them. They promote mental wellness for veterans through gaming. So the charity, what they do with the donations is they send care packages out to veterans. And I actually, last year we funded enough that I was able to send, in my name, the charity sent it, a PS5 and a bunch of games to a veteran. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And like the guy, he still comes to my streams sometimes, but he posted like a whole unboxing video and stacked up.
So you know exactly who the beneficiary was.
Yeah, I do. I just can't remember his username off the top of my head.
So that's really cool.
I watched his unboxing video and it was really cool because they put like my profile picture and my username in the package. It's like, this is a gift from BunmeiRA. And it was just the coolest thing to see that was what I was able to do from my community, being able to raise that much money.
That's really
neat.
It
was nice to see where it went, you know?
Because most charities, they'll usually have some sort of itemized list and say, you know, this much money means that we can do this type of thing or buy this type of equipment or send this type of game or toy to whoever. And you don't normally see who the specific person is. And that's, you know, a variety of reasons, privacy largely. But that's really neat that in this case, it was not only that the beneficiary was able to get it, but that they also were then comfortable enough to post it publicly and say, hey, you know, let's make this a whole special moment of being able to unbox this, and that you then were able to actually see and experience that joy.
Yeah, it was so cool, honestly. Like, we watched the video on my stream later that day, too. Or, like, the next day. I forget when it was. It was a few months ago now. Like, it was back in late summer. But it was really cool to get to see. And I don't know that they're doing it again now. They had paused for a while, you know, due to the pandemic and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But they also, they'll take some of the money and they do these events where they'll, like, fund for vets to go to, like, gaming and anime conventions, too.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can, you know, they can go and play in the arcade and go to the panels and all that stuff. I haven't been to a con in like 5 years, but you know, they get to go and like have fun and have the experience, and it's a good time. So they're a really cool charity. I'm happy I've gotten to work with them so much. I hope I can work with them again in the future too, because I really, really love them.
Was there something in particular that drew you to that charity or to veterans as a sort of subset of charity causes?
Not necessarily. They actually were just the very first charity that ever reached out to me.
Oh, okay.
And I spent so long being such a small creator, but one of my big dreams as a content creator has always been to be able to use my platform to help other people. So when they reached out to me, you know, I was looking on their website. I was like, oh no, what is this? No one ever talks to me about these things. I'm so tiny. I'm baby. And I was looking through their website and I'm like, holy shit, they look so cool. Look at all this cool shit they're doing. Yes, I want to help. Yes, I want to do a stream. And
that's awesome.
I had such a good time doing the first one that when they emailed me this year and was like, hey, are you on board to do it again? I was like, hell yes, I am. Absolutely, I am.
Oh, I love it. That it's always good to see when charities, you know, all charities are going to have some sort of outreach person or role, because obviously that's what a charity needs. They need folks to be aware of them. But it's not quite as common for charities to go out of their way and specifically say, all right, you know, we're not necessarily going to go for the big names, or at the very least, we're not just going to go for the big names. We're actually going to actively scout around, take the time. And, you know, I say this as someone that I actively scout everybody that I invite on my show. I don't just send out a thing to somebody because they have numbers, that I need to have seen their stream. And that they saw you and they were like, this is someone who we think would be really good to work with. And that takes time and effort. And running a charity has so many different needs that they can't always feasibly give that time and effort, even if they would want to. So it's really neat that StackUp was actually, you know, able to even have that on their radar as something for them to do, and even cooler that you wound up being somebody that they reached out to.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that they I know the person that scouted me originally had come to my streams at least once or twice before, so to know that they liked my platform, I honestly don't know why they trusted me with their charity, because I feel like that was a bad decision, but I don't trust myself with anything, so...
I think they had a pretty good eye, and it's the type of thing that, like I said, that's very similar to what I do. Just, I want to make sure, at the very least, that when I'm going around and thinking, hey, who might I invite on my show, that just looking for someone that has a good attitude, who seems like they're not going to be totally crazy inappropriate. And it's the type of thing of, you say you don't trust yourself with anything, and that, we were talking earlier in the week, and you were like, is swearing okay? And I said, oh, you're fine. I can guarantee you're not the most profane person I've had on my show. And that you should give yourself credit that you're very good at what you do. And the folks over at Stack Up, I think they were onto something.
Thank you.
And it's just very sweet that, you said that it's something that you always want to do, is to be able to use your platform for good. And that's something very much that I tried to do as well. That, like I mentioned, I'm going to be running my 2nd anniversary charity marathon in January. Had the 1st anniversary this year, and the charity that I benefit is called Child's Play. It's one of the now many game charities that gets games and support to children in hospitals and domestic violence shelters. As far as I can tell, I need to triple check, but I think they were the first of their kind, that they were founded somewhere around, I think it was like 2011-ish, that they were very early to the game on that.
I think they were. I worked with a similar charity in I want to say late spring, early summer, but they were called Gamers Outreach.
Oh yeah,
but very similar. That they take consoles and games and stuff to kids in hospitals, and their volunteers go play the games with the kids. That was another one I was really excited to work with. Honestly, I thought it was so cool.
I remember they did it was this summer that they did a huge VTuber summer bash thing where they just reached out to a ton of VTubers and made it a whole week thing. And I think they raised some $87,000 or something over the course of that week, and that was just super cool. And obviously all these charities are doing good. I am glad that more than one exists, because just they're all doing good work. Some of them do things in different ways, some of them have different approaches. That's fine. There is more than enough room for one. What drove me to Child's Play in particular is, one, I really enjoy it is a charity marathon called Desert Bus for Hope. And that, funny enough, it was described to me once as the first subathon, because the way they do it is they play a terrible, terrible game called Desert Bus, which was on the Sega CD, where you drive from Tucson to Las Vegas, Nevada in real time.
Oh, that sounds like a good time.
It is an 8-hour trip, and your bus has a slight list to the left, so you need to pay attention, otherwise your bus will break down.
That sounds like a great time, though. You get 8 people in that bus? You start singing?
Well, that's the thing of just, it is a completely mundane game, and it's a terrible game to play under normal circumstances. But just the way they do it is they have the game in the corner of the screen. And yes, they are playing it at all times, but then at the same time, they have a whole bunch of folks that are doing challenges. You can send in things and say, hey, for 25 bucks, sing this song or something, that they will help encourage donations that way. They had, I think it was their 16th annual Desert Bus for Hope this year, and they have raised over $9.5 million lifetime.
Oh my God. But see, that's the kind of thing too. We talked earlier about VTuber technology. You get a bunch of VTubers and you stick them inside a little bus overlay.
Oh yeah, you could actually do that and actually put them in a bus in a way that they couldn't do on that one. You're absolutely right.
I feel like it absolutely would not end well, but...
So funny enough, actually, Fuji, who, the Fuji Reactive Images, and also now works with VShojo, he's worked on Desert Bus since year 3, 4, 5. I forget exactly when, but he has worked on Desert Bus for the majority of its existence. So when I got into the VTuber community and I stumbled upon Fuji and saw him here, I was like, oh, I know this guy. He's really good at tech and does Desert Bus and charity stuff.
That's really cool.
Seeing him appear over here has just been a very unexpected delight.
That's really cool.
And
yeah, he's made some really cool shit for the VTubing community, honestly. It's really nice that he's made so many tools for us.
He is a tech wizard, and I do not use that term lightly. That he apparently designed a subtitle plugin for Nazana's debut in like 2 days. And I know he's done stuff for Desert Bus in very short order, sometimes in the progress of the run. And I realized in all this, I totally veered off of how it is the first subathon. So, like I said, they started 16 years ago, and the way it works is they will play Desert Bus for 1 hour for $1. The second hour costs $1.07, and it compounds by 7% each hour. So the first day costs about $50. By the end of day 6, it's costing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for the next hour, and eventually they hit the limit of sanity, and they cannot fund the next hour, and that is when the run stops.
Have they ever made it all the way?
Well, there is no all the way, because the way the Desert Bus works is, like I said, it's an 8-hour trip, and if you get from Tucson to Las Vegas, you get 1 point, and then you do the return trip ad nauseum. There is no end to the game.
There's no end.
So it is just...
It's like, 8 hours doesn't sound so bad.
Oh, yeah. They've gotten many points, and they actually have a big celebration anytime that they do have a point, because goodness knows, with all the silly things they're doing on screen, they do crash a fair bit. But that, like I said, it's always there in the corner, and it's just sort of that underlying thing that gave them the initial spark of an idea of, let's play the most boring game on earth for charity. And it's since grown into this huge thing, and it's always a must-watch thing for me. That it's basically the only thing that got me to stop watching VTubers for a week. Of, this is this once-a-year thing of, okay, I am just shifting all my viewing to Desert Bus, and then going back to VTubers.
I'm gonna have to check it out next time.
Yeah, it usually happens.
Sounds really cool, honestly.
It's unlike anything, because it's 24 hours. That they have a rotating cast, that it's not 1 or 2 people staying up all night and all day for a week, because that's how long it ends up going nowadays. But they'll break things into shifts and have different folks for roughly 6 hours a day. That way they can all still be healthy, and they will be tired by the end of the run, but that way it's not, completely absurd.
I don't know, man. VTubers. What's the longest VTuber subathon? How long did Iron Mouse and Shy Wheels go?
I don't know.
I don't even know how they did it, man. I don't know how VTubers do these big uncapped subathons. I don't think I could ever do it. I went 3 days, and I didn't even stream nonstop like I had planned when I was doing my charity marathon. I was like, I can't. I'm going to sleep. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Like Desert Bus's approach. The whole reason they had the 7% initial concept was, for their first run, they reverse engineered, all right, how long do we think we'll go? How long do we want to go? And then how do we, make our compounding algorithm fit? And they fell on 7%, because their initial thought was, okay, we'll do this for a weekend, and we'll raise $5,000, and that'll get us through, 2.5, 3 days. And that'll be great. And then they accidentally raised $20,000 on their first run, and had to, in real time, figure out who was going to not go to work on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Oh, shit.
The early days were very chaotic there.
How do you even put your time off for that? Like, hey, I can't come to work today. I'm driving a bus on a video game for charity.
I don't know what excuses they used. I have no idea what they did, but they made it work.
I'm gonna start using that as my excuse when I call out of work.
Pretty good excuse, because it's so difficult to say, today. Oh, don't do charity things. Yeah, that's how I wound up on Child's Play, since that was a charity marathon that just wound up meaning stuff to me. Plus, what they do, which goes a little step extra, is they actually fund positions at hospitals as technical experts to help manage and implement the games and different technology that are brought in by Child's Play, because doctors and nurses don't necessarily know how to set up an Xbox, or they don't know which games are going to be good. And, they're busy and they have other jobs to do. Whereas Child's Play will have it so, one, they're able to keep proper inventory and make sure that things are hooked up properly instead of, a nurse not understanding that a PlayStation controller is actually in the Xbox room or whatever, but that they do active studies and have guides for these hospitals and other facilities that they get tech to, saying, here's the types of games to give patients with these types of issues. If you have somebody who needs to calm down because they're getting ready for a really stressful surgery, don't give them Mario Kart, because that is a high-intensity, high-stress game.
Do not give them Fortnite.
Yeah,
give them
Minecraft.
Give them Minecraft.
But on the other
hand... Don't
hand...
even give them Minecraft. Give them Stardew Valley.
Yes.
Minecraft... Do you know how much I rage at Minecraft? Don't give them Minecraft. Don't give them Minecraft. That's a dangerous game.
But then on the flip side, things like Fortnite and Mario Kart are fantastic for patients that have pain of some sort, because all that high intensity and just stimulation, just the auditory and visuals, help distract the brain.
It just honestly amazes me that you bring that up, because it just, just overall in general in society, I don't think I ever realized until, especially at my current job, how technologically impaired some people are. Like, I feel so privileged as a gamer and a streamer that I know how to use, it's not even that I know how to use this VTubing technology, it's that I know how to use my computer. I had to help out my boss at work today because they're gonna be getting us new PCs in our office, so we have to get everything converted into the shared cloud folders. And she didn't know how to move her files around, and I had to help her.
It's just click and drag.
I'm like, just move it, just put it over here, it's okay.
Hey,
and it
that
just
means you're a valuable employee to them, though.
Oh yeah, they can't get rid of me. I'm valuable in many ways. They could never get rid of me.
Always a good place to be in. Yeah, sorry. I can get rambly when charity and Child's Play gets brought up.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Talk about what you're passionate about. That's what we're here for, right?
Well, we're here for what you're passionate about. So, also, we hadn't even discussed charity at all. So that's two things already tonight, right at the front of the show that hadn't been planned, but that's super cool. And like I said, second anniversary is going to be in January, and you will be getting an invite for that probably actually in the next week. That some of these folks that were on my show in February, that I keep in touch with my guests as best I can, but your turnaround time on that's going to be pretty quick, because I try and make sure I have everything planned before the holidays hit. But in terms of we were already talking about Nuzlocke. Obviously, Pokemon is a big series for you. You actually had a tweet a week or two ago with one of those, for every like I get, I will say a certain fact about Pokemon and what I like.
Yeah. I love those little things on Twitter. They're so fun for me.
You got up to 16 on that. But I checked the tweet today, and it has 21 likes.
I think I forgot
how about
to finish
we answer them here?
Okay, so you want to answer the rest of them?
Yeah, because it was only 5. It was 21 likes, and I did not add to that. I did not stuff the ballot box there.
Let me find the thingy.
Oh, no, I have them written down.
You have it open.
I have it
Hell
here.
yeah. All right, let's go. I'm down.
Number 17 was, what is your favorite Pokemon soundtrack?
Favorite soundtrack? Oh, definitely Diamond and Pearl. Definitely.
And
I'm I have a very big Gen 4 bias because it was my first game, and I love to listen to the Diamond and Pearl soundtrack just overall.
And it is a very good one.
It's so well done.
In general, I don't think there are any misses in Pokemon soundtracks that, I think usually nostalgia is going to end up having a pretty big impact on folks when they decide what is their favorite soundtrack, because a lot of it is going to be based on what you've heard the most or what you have the most inherent emotional connection to, and that's usually going to be either your first, your most recent, and there's exceptions to those rules, but it's usually going to end up falling into one of those two. So not surprising at all, but also that's one where I feel like there's just no wrong answer. If I had to choose for me, I'd probably say Gold, Silver, and that wasn't my first one. My first Pokemon game was Yellow, but the amount that I played Gold and Silver was probably 3 to 4 times as much as I played Yellow. And I still played Yellow a fair bit. And I liked the Heart Gold, Soul Silver remixes. But for me, those chiptune tracks from the original Gold Silver are still just so nostalgia drenched for me. I acknowledge that they are not the most musically complex, and this is as someone who is a musician. If I were to pick the most, musically complex soundtrack, you'd have to ask me later because I don't know that off the top of my head.
I mean, I don't think any of them are necessarily bad.
Yeah,
even the older ones. I mean, just look at the impacts that the older music has had in that chiptune. Like, you think about all of the Lavender Town creepypastas and the supposed Lavender Town syndrome that kids were having seizures and stuff from this song. Like, the older soundtracks still had an impact, and I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, and actually, funny enough, I was involved in a Lavender Town remix by one of my past guests, the Arcand. He is a wizard VTuber who does a lot of compositions that he's actually worked on Fauna's BGM.
Oh, that's so cool.
And he did it was like a technocore or something remix of Lavender Town, and he needed some people to read out some of the lines from the characters in Lavender Town. So I contributed my voice for that, and it was all 3 lines, but it's still super fun to be a part of.
That's sweet. You'll have to link me that later. I want to hear it.
Definitely. Now, the next one's going to get controversial. It's sort of the exception to the rule on this big list, because most of it is, what is your favorite? And this is the one that goes and says, what is your least favorite Pokemon?
I want to say this is an easy pick, but it's a really, really hard pick, because I have a couple of them that I really, really hate. Partially because they're annoying spawns. But I think if I really had to pick a least favorite, and my community already knows this, it would have to be Bronzor and Bronzong from Gen 4. I don't know what it was about them, but they straight up gave me nightmares. Like, they creeps me the fuck out. So I can't. Like, if I had to pick my least favorite based on annoyingness, it would be Zubat, hands down.
I feel like that's low-hanging fruit. That it is a non-controversial opinion to say, oh, I hate Zubat. That's the easy one.
But if I have to pick my least favorite for, personal reasons, it's especially Bronzong. It just freaks me out. I don't know what it is. It freaks me out.
It is a weird one that it has.
I don't know.
The soulless red eyes, because they're just etchings on this large bell thing, and it's metal, but it's also flexible, and it makes its cry is on the weirder side.
Yeah, I don't. No, thank you.
Blaze says Zubat is always the correct answer. I feel like it's certainly not the wrong answer to this one, that's for sure. For me, it's tough. I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and I try to like things. I make an effort to not dislike things if at all possible, and that makes this one really difficult for me. So if I had to choose, Zubat's probably an easy answer, but that also feels like the coward's answer. So, God, this is actually tough. I prepared these questions because I knew, all right, these were the 5 that Bun hasn't answered. I should have had the forethought to prep my own dang answers for it. We'll get back to that. I'll figure that out before we finish this little segment here. The next one's an interesting one.
Also agree with Ellen, aka Woonky, one of
God.
my other really close friends and mods. Hypno and Drowsy also creep me the fuck out. I can't stand them either.
What the heck is Drowsy supposed to be? Is he an anteater? But then he's not an anteater anymore, and instead he's just this really creepy, a bit too humanoid dude.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm good.
The next one is interesting because a lot of the questions on this particular tweet are based on characters or more static things, whereas this asks about an experience. That what was your favorite Pokemon battle? And I'm assuming that means, slated battle in the game, not favorite battle that you've had with friends or online, but, in the series canon, do you have any favorite battles?
That's really tough I would have to say I really like the battle with Whitney, and for me it was Soul Silver. I never got to play the original Gold and Silver because I never had a Game Boy.
Oh my goodness, and
just
I
like
feel
the
like
Game Boy. The first
one
Game Boy
most would say is their least favorite battle.
I loved fighting that Miltank. I had a good fucking time. And not because of the others. Don't let anyone fool you. If they tell you otherwise, they're lying.
Absolutely.
But I really enjoyed battling, oh shoot, what's the name?
You remember the game?
It was in, Emerald, and it's the champion, but it's not Steven. The champion's different
Wallace.
in Emerald. Wallace. I really enjoyed that fight too.
Was there something that stuck out to you about that one? That, for me, Wallace is frankly one of the more forgettable champions.
I enjoyed that he was different from the other games, just because I like the change that they make on like those extra little spin-off ones. But I don't know, there was something about that fight for me that stuck out. I don't remember if it was the music, I don't remember if it was something else. Something about it stuck out when I played Emerald the first time, and I enjoyed it.
Now, Emerald is Gen 3, but your first was Gen 4 with Diamond and Pearl, so when did you go back and play Emerald, and was it a on-stream thing, or was this just now you're really into Pokemon and went and played it on your own?
Way back when I was a kid. So my first was Gen 4. I got Diamond and Pearl. I started out with Diamond, and then I saved my allowance back up, and I went and bought Pearl because I really wanted a Glameow, and I didn't realize it was version exclusive because I was brand new to the series. I didn't know that was a thing. And I wanted Misdreavus. And those were both Pearl exclusives, so I went back, I got Pearl. I played all the way through Pearl. I hacked Pearl with my action replay and did some things I definitely shouldn't have done.
Oh, you messed with the reality of space-time. What have you done?
I ran straight through the map until I got to Shaman.
Don't worry, I did the same thing.
But
it was
after
available.
Yeah, it's like I wanted it, and they did like what that was back in the days when they didn't even do the online mystery gifts.
No,
that was back in the day that you had one day out of the year you had to drive your ass out to Toys R Us, stand in line to get Jirachi or whatever the fuck they released. You were lucky enough to have a
Toys R Us in your area that was doing the event, because it wasn't every Toys R Us.
It was like an hour away from me. My parents would drive me to Toys R Us for Pokemon.
Like
so
you had to know where to go online to even find out about this. This was before the age of social media, that you
had
to know.
It's like if you didn't know, you were SOL.
Yeah,
so you missed out on all of that shit.
That is, like I said, that's what I did for the same reason. That's a forgivable hack, because you're not trying to bypass the game. You're not trying to.
I just wanted the cute little hedgehog.
You want the little hedgehog, and you can't get him otherwise.
And one of my friends in school, like, we rode the bus together. We sat on the school bus in our seat together, and she was showing me how to make it work. She's like, okay, just get on your bike and go. And I was like, can I go across the water? And she's like, yeah, you just get on your bike and go. And so I get on my bike, and then I get to these flowers, and I swear to God, I thought I broke it. I thought I fucking broke it, because that little flower island is so long before you finally get to Shaman.
It's supposed to be this, whole scenic thing. And to their credit, for the limited
it was
graphical
nice.
ability they had, the in-game events that they had, and like the special islands for there was Shaman in Gen 4, there was New Island with Mew in Gen 3. There was, I forget what it is, island with Darkrai, and that, you went into this dark
Darkrai and Cresselia and all of those.
And Arceus and all of them that, they
Arceus,
were really scenic.
Yeah, they did some really, that's another thing I like, honestly, and I've talked about this with my community so many times. I personally, and this is my bias, I don't like that Pokemon moved into 3D graphics, and I know it's the future now. But for me, the peak of Pokemon was Gen 4, and especially Gen 5, when they had the animated pixel sprites, and they did this stuff with the angles in the city when you were running around, and it zoomed in and it zoomed out. That was so amazing to me. I loved that, because I love pixel art. And I like that Pokemon's made the move to 3D. I know it was the right move for them, because that's what games are now, and their marketing and all this, but personally, if I could have every Pokemon be the graphics that Gen 4 and Gen 5 had on the DS, I would keep it 100% because it was just gorgeous to me.
That was definitely, I think, when it hit the cross on the graph of phrasing. It hit the cross on the graph of console ability versus actual output. That what we had in Gen 1 and 2, the graphics were a lot simpler than what a Game Boy was potentially capable of.
Mm-hmm.
With Diamond and Pearl and Black and White, it was high-end graphics, about as high-end that the DS and 3DS could handle, but it still ran very cleanly. Now we've sort of gone a little bit to the other, and obviously, there's the performance issues, and that it's skewed a bit to where they're trying a bit too much for what the hardware can handle.
Let's talk about those performance issues right now. Let's talk about how half the time when I go to battle a Pokemon in Pokemon Scarlet, the floor goes invisible and all I see is blue. Let's talk about console performance.
But at the same time, Scarlet and Violet is such a fascinating case study, in my opinion, because it hit a remarkable cross on sort of, a different non-existent graph, and that is, where can you mess up without hindering gameplay? And because everyone, I feel like almost unanimously, folks are saying, obviously, graphically, it's not pretty. You would want it to run better. But at the same time, the actual gameplay, the core of the series, everything is still so fun. And that you had issues with things like, Cyberpunk that had a lot of similar graphical issues. And in a real-time action game, if you have chugging frame rates, that's going to inherently destroy the entire play experience. You can't have a game like that. But since Pokemon is turn-based, if it's a little chuggy as you go in and out of your turn-based battles, not pretty, but you can still play the game, and it is still a fine gameplay experience in that sense, and that they just managed to dodge the bullet partially because of their own game design and basically get away with things that others just can't.
I just wish they didn't keep getting away with it because it's Pokemon and people just want Pokemon so badly that they'll pay for the game, myself included. Because, I looked back at Legends Arceus because I never finished it, and I decided to go back and start playing it a little bit because I was trying to save Scarlet for stream. And the graphics on that one are so nice. Like, the frame rate doesn't drop.
I was going to say, I played Arceus all the way through, completed the Pokedex, and I love that game.
They did so good with it. I'm trying to get back into it. It's like, I don't know about... I think the appeal I don't see is the thing of, like, you have to catch so many and do all these little things to actually complete the decks. That doesn't appeal to me as much. It is a little bit grindy. Because it's a little bit of a grind, and I, as someone with crippling ADHD, I do not like games that force me to grind. I don't. Because I lose my attention span way too quickly with them, and I can't focus on them anymore, and I don't want to do it.
I can understand that. The way that I sort of approached it was as a puzzle of what is the most efficient way to get all of these qualifications of, all right, if, this Pokemon needs to use this move a certain number of times and needs to use this style a certain number of times and get caught a certain number of times, okay, I'm bringing it into battle and make sure it knows this move and use it in set style. That way I'm getting credit for both of them, but I'm also going to be using it while fighting this other Pokemon that I need to defeat a certain amount of for that dex entry, and just figuring out, all right, what is the path of least resistance so I'm not having to do each individual one and actually getting, if not a perfectly optimal one, something that I felt like I was killing multiple birds with one stone. I feel like at that point, at the very least, you can sort of just potentially make it a just chatting stream, even if it is a little bit mundane.
Yeah, I definitely think that you can. I've been trying to think about ways to integrate it into my stream after I finish Scarlet, but I think too, just overall for me, open world games, I get really easily distracted, or I just can't focus on them at all because it's too much open and not enough, here's a set task, go do it. Because I can't tell my brain to go and like wander around the map and do something when I don't have a set objective to follow. But then when I do have a set objective to follow, I get distracted by the 5 other things in the open world, and then I never finish the objective.
I can appreciate that. It's sort of the double-edged sword of it all. Of you can do anything, and that's great. But also,
it's like, oh shit, I can do anything.
Then you get either analysis paralysis, or like you said, you might not feel the impetus, the motivation to complete a certain thing because the game is so hands-off with you. You also mentioned, and this has been a broader discussion in the Pokemon community, of the idea of Game Freak keeps getting away with it, and I feel like they haven't gotten away with it anytime prior to this. That I do feel that Scarlet Violet is very unique, and we've never had a Pokemon game release with this level of issues. That yes, Legends Arceus was not the best, and if you see certain Pokemon from a distance, that the frame rate's going to be a bit low on their animations, but once you get close to them, everything's fine. That there's no chugging to the game, you don't have the clipping with the environment like you mentioned when you enter battles, that was all fine. And if you go back just historically, yes, Pokemon games have generally erred on the side of simpler graphics compared to what their consoles are capable of, but I don't think there's ever been a case prior to this generation where they've released something that did genuinely feel unpolished.
I can agree. I don't think they've ever released anything that's had this many bugs and has felt this unfinished, but I do feel like the overall, and this may be playing on the point I see in chat, Nintendo seeing children still as the primary audience for Pokemon and not adults, but adults have been with it so long that they still want to play too. And I feel like the games have gotten so much more simplistic, and they're not really, building up as much of a story or adding as much challenge as they used to. Like, when I look back at the storylines of Gen 3, and then especially Gen 4 and Gen 5 for me, they had these really cool, like, deep, dark storylines, and the evil villain team actually had a motive that was more than being the bullies at school, or like cheering on their favorite Pokemon trainer. They were actually, they were trying to reset the time-space continuum or free Pokemon from people. And now it just seems like it's like, oh, we'll go catch the Pokemon, beat the bad guys, get the gym badge, yay!
I can agree on, well, it's sort of a swinging pendulum, because obviously Gen 1, you didn't have a lot. Gen 2, probably, frankly, less than Gen 1. And then Gen 3, 4, and 5 were amazing. You then see, in my opinion, in 6, 7, 8, that the plot was not as deep necessarily in terms of, like you were saying, the motives of the villains and what are the actual emotional stakes here, but that they sort of tip the scales to go from depth to just breadth, for lack of a better term. That the amount of dialogue and plot points and characters, it has sort of bloated to the point where it's become potentially less of a feature. That a lot of folks complain, particularly in Sun and Moon, of how many cutscenes are there and how many times am I stopped for dialogue. And
don't talk to me about Sun and Moon.
Yeah, and it's like,
I hated
you can't
Sun
say
and
that
Moon.
they didn't invest in their story there. It wasn't a particularly compelling story, but they made it a story, and they wrote a lot of dialogue, a lot of dialogue.
They did a lot, and they went almost overboard in Sun and Moon with this story. Like, they almost did too much. But for me, I tried to finish Sun and Moon, and I couldn't. And then I think I got Ultra Sun, and I tried it again, because everyone was saying, oh, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are better, it's more finished, the story feels better. And I tried, and no. Oh no, I think I got 3. It's not I think the only thing that bothered me is that was when they really started changing on the formula with the gym battles. Yeah, and it was like the trials, the island trials, and I just didn't like it.
It's funny because Sun and Moon is also the only generation that I have not finished the main story of the game. I'm very close that I actually I have my 3DS in my backpack now, and it has become the thing that whenever I travel and I'm on a plane, that is what I play, and I just, have it in bite-size, 2-3 hour segments every couple of months whenever I'm on a plane for some reason, and that is enough for me to get my fix at that point in time, but that even now I do not feel compelled to go out of my way under normal circumstances to finish that game.
Yeah, I was doing the same. I was playing it while I was traveling. I think it was around the time that I originally moved back in like 2020. I was trying to play it again on my 3DS, and like I said, I just couldn't. And I remember I got kind of excited because I caught a couple shinies in it, just out of the blue. I had a shiny Meowth, and I had one other one. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I got the shinies really easily. That's never happened before. And I tried to keep actually playing, and I gave up. I couldn't.
Yeah, I have only encountered, not including the Red Gyarados, and not including Legends Arceus, because the shinies there are so much easier to encounter. The only random battle shiny I have encountered is in Gen 2 Silver. I found a blue Shuckle. I have not found a shiny Pokemon since.
I've been on the grind in Scarlet right now for one of my friends that comes to my streams pretty often got me the shiny Dunsparce. God bless, I love Dunsparce, it's my favorite Pokemon. But I've currently been trying the Masuda method for the first time, so I got a Japanese Ditto, and I've been trying to get a shiny Gumi and a shiny Pawmi. So I've been breeding and hatching all these eggs, and I haven't gotten shit yet. I think it's bullshit. I think the internet
and that's
lied
a particularly special type of shiny grinding that I do not have the patience for.
I don't know how much longer I'm gonna go on.
But when you're having to do, when it's trying to breed a shiny and having to then get the eggs and bike around ad nauseum, that I could not do that.
I mean, the good thing about it right now is with if you get Miraidon or Coraidon, I just pretty much sit in the picnic area, and it is a bit quicker because you can at least use the sandwiches to boost your egg type and their egg laying odds. So I just kind of let it sit idle while I do other stuff and get a shit ton of eggs, and then I just dash up and down the stairs of the school plaza until they all hatch.
Because that's the other fun thing of every generation shiny breeders ask the question, what is the longest span in the game that I can walk? And in this case, it's that staircase.
It's that staircase back and forth. And I just wish, like, even in a non-combat area, I could have all 6 eggs in my party, but it'll still only let you keep 5, and it still makes you keep, like, 1 that can battle. Because the reason I did the staircase, too, is because, with the way the overworld sprites are true to size now, I was trying to run around just, like, on a route back and forth, and I would step on this little bug shit, or I would step on a little mouse thing, the stupid 2 mice that I don't even understand why they thought it was a good idea. I don't like it.
Like, I can appreciate the sizing. I think the size on Overworld is brilliant. I love that.
Oh, and, I think it's amazing. And
it's wonderful. But
I especially think it was good. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, when they had the true to size, and you could walk around with your Wailord in the middle of the city, and he's like triple your size.
And the thing is, if you look at Wailord's Pokedex entry, Wailord is much, much more than 3 times the human size.
Oh yeah, he's a large boy.
They still had to scale that thing down.
He's big boy. But yeah, it's just so. And I was trying it because I've never tried it before, and they were like, actually, it's the fastest method if you don't have the shiny charm or the Herba Mystica to get the shiny sandwiches, but I'm just not having a good time. I just want pink slime ball. That's all I want.
Yeah, that at some point you just sort of turn to the internet and say, all right, who's trading shiny Gumis? You did mention, going back to that Twitter post, that your favorite pseudo-legendary line is the Gudra line.
It is. I love Gudra. When they introduced Gudra in X and Y, which, you know, I'll admit I actually really enjoyed X and Y. Even though I was very, very against Pokemon going 3D, I liked X and Y a lot. Gumi is definitely, I would have to say, second in that line for me of the pseudo-legendaries would be Flygon.
Okay.
But I really love Gudra. I love Big Slimy Dragon. I don't know what it is,
Gumi
but
is
I
up
love
there
it.
for me. That it's so dang cute. And
It's
squishy.
so cute.
And just, you know,
Yeah.
there was the meme of Gumi Please.
I just want to squish him.
Sol Pro 99, thank you for the follow. Welcome on in. My favorite pseudo-legendary line also overlaps with just my favorite Pokemon, and that is Metagross. I like me a big, cool supercomputer tank. I just think it's really neat.
Metagross is pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
And I just really like the Psychic Steel type pairing. That Steel, you know, it has all these resistances, and Psychic is really good offensively. And it's just one that has stuck with me for a while.
Yeah, I like when they do some of those cool pairings like that. Like, that was another thing I liked about X and Y, was that Fennekin was a fire and psychic type when you evolved it. Because they do fire fighting so often. And
they did it 3 times in a row, and probably
I
shouldn't
really
have,
liked that they finally, and then they, you know, they took a break, and then they were like, oh, here's Score Bunny.
Yeah.
Oh, here's Litten. I forget what Litten evolves into.
Yeah, no, it's not Pyroar. No,
No,
it's in Smash. Why can't I remember its name?
Incineroar.
Incineroar, thank you.
That's what it's like. Keep the cat on 4 legs. And Game Freak said, no,
Nope.
here's a buff cat. And then they gave us Sprigatito. We said,
And now they give
keep
us
the
Puss in
cat on
Boots.
4 legs.
Then it's Puss in
And-
Boots.
Oh my god. Why can't they just let it stay on 4 legs? The furries are horny enough. Please stop, Game Freak. Please stop.
Yeah, that just, I think, okay, maybe this gives me my answer of my least favorite Pokemon, because I don't inherently dislike the Pokemon, but I think its design is so weird, and its design was such that even though I loved its base evolution, that I changed my starter choice because I didn't like the final evolution. And Sobble is adorable, and Teleon looks weird as hell.
I never picked Sobble either because of that. I didn't like it. I don't know what it was. I couldn't do it either. It's like Sobble was so cute. And I
Look
understand
at what they've done to my boy.
I understand that they're supposed to evolve into like this cool, strong-looking thing, but I think sometimes they stray so far from baby to big, buff, Dommy daddy that I just can't handle it.
And I can understand the concept of what they were going for, is that Inteleon's a spy, and basically he's supposed to be the James Bond because Galar is the analogy for England, and, you know, that's a very cool and interesting pop culture sort of reference. I think it's just proportionally the way that its limbs are all just these super thin noodles, and then the way the eyes look, that I feel like there's ways to make a humanoid final starter evolution look good. We've seen
There are.
good ones.
Just look at what's Quaxly's final evolution. What's the gay duck called? I love the gay duck.
I cannot remember. Because I wound up.
Fuck, what's it called?
Well, that's the other thing. I got Scarlet, or rather, I got Violet. The past 3 weeks for me have been some of the busiest I've had in months, and I still only have one Terra Pokemon, one of the Titan Pokemon and one gym badge, because I just haven't had a chance to play. So I'm actually really behind on a lot of stuff, but I've played through enough to, you know, understand the game performance struggles firsthand and have a general frame of reference for a lot of things. But I do need to actually finish that game. And fortunately for me, like I said at the top of the show, the rest of December for me is actually looking pretty clear. So I'm very much looking forward to actually getting through the game because, you know, for all of its imperfections, it still seems to have been a very good time, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'll be honest, I see when you see all those really funny like bug videos, it seems like it's in the multiplayer more than anything, because I've been playing mainly by myself, and I really, other than my frame rate dropping and occasionally the floor just disappears, I haven't had that many bugs with my game personally.
Yeah, I haven't had anything crazy. That some of the stuff you see online is very much anomalous. That, you know, the thing of the eyes popping out of a model's head, or just having a...
Where is it? It's in my Discord. There was one, someone did a fan art of the eyes popping out of the head and the wiglet.
Yep, I've seen that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. But I haven't had anything to that level of quirky, just the more mundane things. I kind of hope to have something really quirky just because it'd be fun.
Yeah, I was too. I was like, oh, I want something funny to happen.
But
so
at the same time, I'm glad that it's a rarity and not something that you see all the time, because then it would be really problematic. I had a thought and then poof. We've seen really good, you know, non-creepy final starter, like, you know, Blaziken. Great. On 2 legs, that's fine. We've seen, well, Sceptile is sort of interesting because it's not quite humanoid, even if it's on 2 legs.
Sceptile's just like a big old lizard. So
yeah, he's just a big dude.
He doesn't bother me.
But in Teleon, just seeing that design was like,
I also don't know how I feel about, what's it called, Greninja?
Oh yeah, Greninja.
With his tongue scarf, that just makes me uncomfortable.
I just pretend it's a scarf.
It makes me uncomfortable.
That the design, except for that bit, I think the design
he's
is
just got his tongue flapping around.
Yeah, it just, you know, lick a tongue, licky licky, it works.
Oh, no. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the tongue. No. That's a no from me. It just comes over you. No.
Wrapping back a bit, my own favorite battle, this is a very low-hanging fruit, but it is the battle with Red in Gold Silver of just, you get to the end of the game, and this is, you know, way back in the day. Social media isn't as big a thing, spoilers aren't as big a thing, and I was spoiled on this one, but even hearing about it sounded like a schoolyard rumor of, oh, you beat the game and you go into this huge cave and you go in and you find the character from Red, Blue, Yellow. And experiencing that, one, the music, but just, it's the end of everything. You've beaten the league, you've gotten all 16 badges, you've revisited Kanto, seen those things, and just, you've seen the impact of what is now this mythical character of Red, that you understand that Team Rocket is gone, and you're told about, oh, there was an incident in Rocket Tower 2 years ago, and assuming that you are a player who has gone through Red, Blue, or Yellow, like, oh, that was me. At least
I
conceptually.
did that.
I did that. And then going through this very elaborate cave that they made it a good final cave, and getting to that last area where you see the model turned away, but you know it on sight. And it's that combination of, that is the most powerful Pokemon trainer in the world, but at the same time, that is me. That is like the after image of myself, of my playthrough of that game. And then getting to have that incredibly intense high-level battle, higher level than anything the series had seen prior by a mile, was just so cool. And I don't think it is necessarily the best design battle, you know, in terms of Pokemon choice and actual difficulty, but the way it was set up, because basically they planted the seeds for that from Gen 1, of the mere concept of going back and fighting yourself like that hasn't been done since.
Yeah, I kind of wish that's something they would keep doing with the franchise, is that you could, you know, go back and revisit characters from before, because that was something I liked about Black and White 2, was that you could go back and revisit, you know, you saw Sharon Head become a gym leader, and Bianca was doing all of her own stuff, and Iris is the champion now, and you just see how they've all grown and matured since the first game, and it was so cool. But I wish you could revisit the protagonists too.
I'd love to be able to, in Scarlet Violet, somehow, all right, Gloria from Galar has decided to take a trip over to Paldea for some reason that you get to fight the past generation, even if it's not stacking every time. All right, that we're facing all 8 previous iterations. Just give me the immediate previous generation and Red every generation. I think that'd be super cool.
It makes me think of I'm a big magical girl anime fan, and every season Pretty Cure, which is a very long running meta series, you know, they kind of do a baton pass where they do a movie in between, and the current team passes the baton to the new team that's coming for the new season, and they fight together. I think it'd be cool if Pokemon could do something like that, where the previous protagonist comes, they fight the new protagonist, and they're like, all right, it's in your hands now. Go have your game. And
you sort of get that a little bit in Gold Silver when you get to fight with Lance. Or even if you're not actually in the same battle, that he comes along and that he is an active part of the plot for at least a little bit. And getting to have that interaction is super cool. And I think you're right that being able to have these previous iterations just involved somehow, and maybe it's not the same at every generation, but the callbacks are always nice to see. And I forget who it was that mentioned in chat that it is very true that Pokemon is designed for kids, and I think it should stay designed for kids because that is what makes it the multi-generational just phenomenon and icon that it is today. And what I think will keep it there is because it has all this depth below the surface. But if you don't want to know about EVs and IVs and shiny rates and natures and everything, you don't need to. That you can just pick up the game and play, and it's still fine. Would I like a little bit more depth in the character writing? Yes. I don't think that writing things as they did in, Ruby and Sapphire, I don't think that's going to be too much for young kids. Perhaps the stuff with Team Plasma might have been, I wouldn't call it past the line for young kids to really understand and get, but that's getting closer. But it can be more than the schoolyard bullies, yes. But I'm glad that it has stayed so accessible, because it is that accessibility that means that the fandom is always growing. That I actually had a tweet the day before Scarlet Violet was released. It was just, somebody is about to play their first Pokemon game, and it's going to change their life. And I'm so excited for them.
Yeah. It's crazy to think, that every Pokemon game that comes out is somebody's first Pokemon game.
Yeah. And you now have, folks who grew up with Pokemon are now having kids of their own. And what is my favorite variation on a baby reveal of just, forget the gender reveal. Forget that. That's stupid. I want the starter reveal. I love it when I see, parents that will buy 3 starter plushies, put it in front of their young child, and, whichever one they crawl to, that's the one they pick, and that then the parents will then buy more of that to decorate the child's room.
That's so cute. I didn't know people did that.
It's not a super common thing, but I've seen it done in a couple of videos, and I think that's just super adorable.
That's so fucking cute, honestly.
The last 2 on that little tweet list, these are much easier ones than the previous 3. And I'm just going to say both. It's favorite type and favorite move.
Ooh. That's tough. I think favorite type would either be Psychic, or I really like the Fairy type since they introduced it, honestly. I think that was one of the best things they did to the game recently.
It was a very good balance choice.
I think it was a really good move they made, yeah. And favorite move? That one I'm not so sure.
That one is a bit tougher just because there are so many, and you don't necessarily get
so many
attached to moves in the ways that you would get attached to characters or Pokemon or routes or, events in the game. For me, it's probably Steel. I like that it has a very interesting dynamic of very defensive, not very offensive, that it resists a lot of things. It is immune to poison, which flavorfully makes perfect sense. But at the same time, it's only super effective against a handful of things, but it makes for a really good secondary typing that, with Metagross, pairing that with Psychic creates such a cool synergy. But from a design perspective, that Fairy is obviously it speaks to the design of the early teams, in that there's only been 3 type editions in 9 generations in 25 years. And 2 of them were in Gen 2 that they very quickly realized, okay, Psychic's overpowered, let's get in let's get in Dark to help counter that, and then Steel, which added a lot of flavorfulness, really, and depth of, having Magnemite be Steel. Perfect sense, and it created a lot of different things there. But then realizing, okay, Dragon's a little bit out of control, that it was initially handled just by it being so rare. But once it became more populous, it needed an answer, and Fairy was that answer.
Yeah, I really like the way they brought in Fairy to balance, and I like that they applied it to other types, and they applied it to other older Pokemon, and they applied it to ones that it made sense to apply to. Like, they had Clefairy this whole time, and it's literally the fairy Pokemon.
Yeah, and it's just normal.
And it's a normal type.
Meh.
So I really like that they did that.
Yeah, that was...
And I think that was a really good move for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then for favorite move, again, I'm not super sure myself. That is a tough one. I
think... I'm trying to think which ones I use the most often. Like, I really enjoy... What's it called? It's one that it steals the held item. It's not Pluck. It's something else.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say Pluck. Is it Covet?
It might be Covet, yeah, because I had a Pokemon in Scarlet recently that had one. But also, I have to say, if I really want to go back to my roots of, again, just all of my Diamond and Pearl carries, I had a Staraptor and an Infernape that both knew close combat, and they could one-shot just about everything at a while.
Yep.
So that kind of became a very key move for me.
I think for me it would probably be Earthquake, for similar reasons to Close Combat, that it is absurdly powerful in 1v1s, but that it also creates a very interesting dynamic in double battles, because yes, you can hit both of your opponents with this very powerful moves, but if you're not planning, you're also going to hit your own. And it adds that level of strategy of making sure, all right, I'm going to want something with Levitate or Flying out when I'm using this, because otherwise I might kill myself along with the enemies.
I want to say I also really enjoy... Sorry, I'm trying to get something open for my dog so that she'll leave me alone.
Remind me the dog's name again?
Her name is Gaia. She's named after Gaia from Final Fantasy XIV. Although Dems, my boyfriend, and I had a revelation tonight because she's all black as we were watching our current Netflix show that I think is everyone's current Netflix show.
Wednesday.
We wish we would have named her Wednesday. We were like, oh, that would have been a really good name for her. She's all black. But I think she's way too energetic to be a Wednesday. She is very happy all the time. Hi, do you want to come say hello? Yes, I'm talking about you. Hi.
What type of dog?
She is so Gaia is a Sholo Eats Quaintly. They are hairless Aztec dogs, but she is a coated Sholo, so she has fur. And despite please don't bite the mic. Baby, stop it. She wanted to say hello. I'm sorry. She's just sharing her
Hello,
love.
Gaia. Welcome to Vtuber Talk. Not the first furry friend that has guest starred, not the last.
Yeah, we have one more fur baby too, but she's not in here right now with my cat Venus. everyone calls her Venus because someone thought that's what I called her once. So she has become Venus. But yeah, Gaia is... I don't even know how to describe her. I think she's honestly so smart that she's stupid. Like, she's got so many brain cells that they just counteract each other. And she just can't function.
That happens with pets sometimes. Just, you can tell. On certain things, they're brilliant, and they know what to do and what not to do. And certain times, they choose to not use whatever knowledge they might have and do probably the absolute wrong thing.
It's like she's smart enough to know commands, but she's smart enough to know that if she does a trick, she gets a treat. So a lot of times when I was teaching her things, like I taught her how to do, like she'll sit down and I'll do the finger guns at her and I go bing, and then she rolls over and she plays dead.
Yep.
And you know, she'll see me get the treat and she sees me do the finger guns and she just flops over. Like, I don't even say the thing. And I'm like, dude, you have to wait. You're doing it wrong. I'm not ready yet. And she's like, no, I did it. Give me a treat. She's like, I did it. I get the thing.
That animals are still smart, that they might not have, you know, the brain capacity of humans, but they learn. And especially when it comes to repeated behaviors, that they pick up on things. And goodness knows, I had dogs when I was growing up, and it was the type of thing that treats are always a double-edged sword, because as soon as they learn that they will get a treat for doing a thing, they are inherently less likely to do the thing unless you give them a treat.
She's definitely not too bad about not doing the thing if she doesn't get the treat. She's smart enough to know, like, okay, this is the command. But she's more so, she sees the treat and does the thing before she even gets the command.
Yeah, like, she's at the point of anticipating.
I'm like, I didn't even say it yet. Alright. Do not eat the plastic. I gave you the treat that was in the bag. Do not eat the bag. She's a genius, I swear.
The true dog of the stream. Definitely not Bun. Definitely
not me. Definitely not. Don't let any of them tell you otherwise. I'm not a dog. I never have been, never will be a dog. If they say I'm a dog, they're lying.
And, well, with all of those twists and turns, that actually gets the 5 things that you hadn't answered yet on Twitter, so now you can say you have.
Woo!
Yay! And I suppose pivoting from that, you mentioned that Gaia is named after Gaia from Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
A lot of my guests have played Final Fantasy XIV, and I just don't have the time to commit to an MMO, and I've tried my best to pick up bits and pieces from my past guests just via osmosis, and it definitely seems like the MMO RPG of choice for the VTuber community, pretty unsurprisingly. But what about it really appealed to you? What really hooked you?
So for me, it was, for a long time, Dums and I were looking for another MMO to play because we are big MMO junkies. We actually met on an MMO. We're that gamer couple.
Which MMO was it?
We met in game. It was Terra, and Terra sadly doesn't even exist anymore. It died to the point they sold it to a different company. The other company tried to keep it alive, and as of, I want to say, late last year or early this year, they shut down the servers finally.
Aww.
It was such a good game. It had, I think, the best combat system I've ever had in an MMO. It was like reactive combat. And I haven't seen a lot of other MMOs. I've seen other MMOs try to do it. Blade and Soul tried to do it.
What is reactive combat in this context?
So it was that instead of, you know, just moving out of the damage and given a certain time limit, like let's say Final Fantasy XIV, it's gonna, you know, give you an indicator where the damage is gonna come out, and you just have to step out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Terra gave you a much shorter indicator, and you had a dodge move, like you would have a dodge roll or a backstep or a teleport if you were a sorcerer, and you had to quickly react and dodge the hit rather than just maneuvering out of it as you're playing. And I always loved that because it was so fun for me. Like it
sort
was
of
almost
that
like
Dark Souls element of
it was
the dodge roll,
like it was like playing a hack and slash rather than an MMO. And so, you know, we kept looking around for another MMO that would have combat comparable to Terra. And at one point one summer, I want to say it was like 2018 or 2019, we were going between Elder Scrolls Online and Final Fantasy 14. And I had a couple friends that played 14. So we decided on that one. Said friends never played with us.
Oh no!
But we met a whole bunch of new friends and made our own guild, and we really love it. For me personally, 14, I like it just because, one, the story is absolutely amazing. I have never had a video game make me ugly cry, like gross snot sobbing, screaming in my chair while I'm playing, like Final Fantasy 14 did.
That's one of the things that just, I know I'm missing out on a good story because everyone says it's so good.
Phenomenal.
And just naturally, when you're able to build out a story over the course of a giant MMO and multiple expansions, you're going to be allowed to do so much more than you're going to have in a conventional video game release. That even Final Fantasy, whose games are prolifically long and that their stories are prolifically good in those games because they do use that time very well. That just the sheer scale of what you can do because you have that extra runtime, understandably, of all the game franchises that have the potential to really capitalize on that feature, it makes a lot of sense that they're the ones.
Yeah, and it's honestly, it does have a bit of a slow start, but in their defense, they had to repair an entirely broken piece of shit game when they first released Realm Reborn.
I've been told about this, and it is so fascinating to me.
I've never played 1.0, but I know a few people that have, and I've seen bits and pieces of 1.0. It was definitely the shit show that everyone says it was. It was broken, and the story was terrible. The voice acting was terrible, and A Realm Reborn, it's definitely not the best part of the story, but it was good enough to pull it back out of the ashes.
But they did what is one of the scariest things to do in, I don't care what type of entertainment medium or just business or project you are in, and that is to say, we need to restart from the ground up, because there is a concept in poker of being pot committed. And that's
but it was the best decision they ever made.
And that's the thing. So many people are very afraid when they're pot committed because, all right, well, the sunk cost fallacy is another phrase there of just, all right, well, I've already done this much. What's a little bit more? What's a little bit more? What's a little bit more? And then you just can't salvage it because the base is so bad, or just you're already in such a losing situation that you need to cut your losses. And it takes a lot, not just for an individual, but for a business to say, okay, we've gone off course and we are with this very large investment of Final Fantasy 14. They could have just shut it down because that's what a lot of MMOs do.
They definitely could have, and I feel like they were close to a point that they were going to do it. But
the fact that they could then say, you know what, instead of shutting it down, we still think there's enough potential here, and that we will take the time and money, because that took money to rebuild it.
Oh, yeah. But they did it.
And look at where they are now.
And they saved it. Are you okay if I take a quick break? I think my dog has to go out. I'm sorry.
Yes, please, go right ahead.
Just give me 2 minutes. I just have to take her outside. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you're good, you're good. Yes. Well, while Bun goes and takes care of Gaia, to everybody else who's watching in chat right now or on YouTube after the fact, hi, YouTube. Thank you all so much for being here. Hope you're enjoying this so far. This is actually episode number 87 of Vtuber Talk, as I mentioned earlier, having my second anniversary charity stream coming up a bit later, early on next year. And I do these shows about once a week. Schedule varies all the time because I do my best to tailor the actual timing of the show around the guests and say, what works best for you. And this happened to be the day and time that worked for Bun. Happy to do it. It's always fun, frankly, for me. I like having my late night talk show at late night. I don't mind when I have to do it at 10 a.m. sometimes, but I just like the late night vibe. It's nice. So if you all are enjoying, feel free to follow me here on Twitch or on Twitter. It's just /Vtuber Talk on both of those places, and hopefully come along for a couple more shows like this. But even if you're not following me, be sure to follow Bun. Her links are right there at the bottom of the screen. They'll be in the video description if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're watching live on Twitch. Given a couple shout outs, I'll give one more right now, but also her links are in the channel panels in the description. If you scroll a bit down right now, that you always make sure to update the panels whenever I have a guest on. So hope you've been enjoying. We've got a lot more to talk about that we've just sort of been really going deep on these couple of subjects so far, but it's always nice when you're really able to get into the nitty gritty. And I definitely actually think there's a fair bit more for us to go on Final Fantasy XIV. So very much looking forward to that and hope you'll stick around. Yeah, we love fun. I love those types of just little rave emotes. Animated emotes is one of the best additions to Twitch in the past several years, in my opinion. They're just so good. I don't think I've seen a bad animated emote, and they always add so much more life to chat. Oh, yes. The intense one as well. Thank you, Cat P, for being here. And just, like I said, what a username. And I was very glad when Bun said, oh, no, that's one of the regulars. And I was like, cool, okay, cool. That's not some rando troll that I need to worry about just coming in at the start of my stream. Oh, I see movement. I see movement.
I'm back.
She's back.
I'm here.
Back. Yeah. Hopefully,
Sorry about that.
No worries. When nature calls for the furry friends, you need to take care of the furry friends. Hopefully,
The
Gaia
good thing
is
is
better now.
She's all good. The good thing is I have a yard, and I don't have to take her over a walk anywhere. I just open the door as she goes. She comes. Thank God.
Yeah, that's definitely a benefit that growing up by the yard, and we didn't have to do too much walking. Later on, we got a golden doodle, and compared to the poodles that we had when I was younger, the golden doodle did need more active walking, but at the very least, making sure they go to the bathroom was in a relatively easy task. But we were on Final Fantasy XIV, the fact that they rebooted the whole thing, and just look at them now. That I need to double check, but I'm pretty sure that it has done what was long thought impossible, and that is unseat World of Warcraft as the #1 MMO in the world.
They have, and I do Savage Raid content on Final Fantasy XIV. I raid twice a week. I was a pretty casual MMO player before Final Fantasy XIV, and I took an interest in harder content with this game. And so a friend of mine was like, oh, let's make a raid group. And so, like, me and Dems and a bunch of our close friends, we made a raid group, and we've been doing the Savage content for, like, almost 2 years now. But we have a lot of, people have come and go because of scheduling and things. We have a lot of WoW refugees that have joined our guild and that raid with us.
And especially over the past year, that even prior to recent events with Blizzard.
Oh, yeah. Even prior to all the Blizzard giant. People just, the WoW community is, from what I've heard, it's so toxic and the content is so much different. I know a lot of WoW refugees that have come over to Final Fantasy XIV, and they all tell me how much better it is.
And it's so
to
weird
play
because
14.
That's what WoW was for a decade and a half. That it was every new MMO was supposed to be the WoW killer. That there was Star Trek Online, there was Star Wars Galaxies, these big generational IPs that were coming in and trying to take on the king and thinking they could. But at the end of the day, I forget what the business theory name is for this, but it essentially boils down to a special type of product where the value and functionality of the product is based inherently on the number of people using the product. So this is for things like social networks, for MMO games, certain competitive things of you need multiple people, you need a critical mass of users to have it be as valuable as it can be. And the problem that all these other big games came into was perhaps they had better design, but people didn't want to leave World of Warcraft. They don't want to leave the characters that they've spent hundreds of hours building, the guilds that they've spent hundreds of hours with. And yes, in theory, they could all move, but then you're all restarting, and it's, well, does everyone in the group want to move or not? And if one person doesn't want to go, that's probably going to keep the rest of them back as well. But
that's how Terra was for me for a long time. You know, I want to say 2 characters I played mainly, and then like 6 other alts I was leveling on Terra, and I had a guild and a whole group of friends, and like I was doing all this stuff, and I had a community of people there, and I didn't want to leave it for a long time until the game just died and we all went our separate ways. But it's so hard to leave an MMO because it's so community based and you put so much time into it.
Yeah, and just you wind up, World of Warcraft absorbed a lot of those communities. Like you said, you wind up with these refugees of, okay, well, I like this play group and we want to keep playing a game together. And if nothing else, what are we reliably confident is going to be there for a long, indefinite time? World of Warcraft will go there. And I don't know when the tipping point was, but when FF14 had a Realm Reborn and that they rejuvenated the game and brought it into general viability, but then with the meme of try Final Fantasy 14 with the new expansion, free up to level 60, and they spammed so much that it became a meme. But it somehow fell into that comfortable zone of not being a derogatory meme, that it was a, oh, tee-hee, you see it everywhere, but enough people were playing it and enjoying that it was like nobody really minded it because it was, oh, this is actually good and useful information of, yeah, you might actually genuinely want to try out Final Fantasy 14 because it's good. And between them just continuing, like you said, with the story combined with Blizzard year over year, just a series of self-inflicted wounds there eventually tipped the scale. And they did, like I said, what had for a long time been the impossible goal of every MMO to be released, and that is to unseat World of Warcraft.
Well, and Final Fantasy 14 also has cat girls. That helped.
That helps too, yes. Yes. Never actually thought of it from that specific angle because World of Warcraft has a lot of different races, a lot of cool ones.
World of Warcraft does not have cat girls.
Cat girls is a very specific thing and is a very popular thing. And I hadn't actually thought about it until just now of that being a unique selling point. And, it's probably not the main thing, but I am positive it's a non-zero factor.
Oh, for me, character creation in an MMO is one of the selling factors for me. Like, if I don't see a character creator I'm gonna enjoy, or like a really detailed one, like that was what I liked about Lost Ark when I started playing it for a while. I definitely didn't stick with it because of Final Fantasy 14 taking most of my time. But like Lost Ark, Blade and Soul, there was one more and I can't remember which one it was. They have amazing character creation. And Blade and Soul was kind of similar to Terra, that they had a lot of different races that you could pick from. Like, I remember on Terra I had one like cute little cat girl, and then I had one like big... They had this one race, I can't remember what they were called, that had these big demon horns. And I had one of those, and she just had amazing mommy energy. And that's something I like about Final Fantasy 14 too. But the kicker with Final Fantasy 14 is you don't have to make an alt character for all of these different races and for all of the different classes. And I think that's another big draw to people. You can just have everything on one character.
Okay, that's something I didn't know. That's something that hasn't come up when talking with any of my previous guests.
It's really unique to Final Fantasy 14.
To me. So are you allowed to at any point, change your class, change your race, and...
Yeah. Well, so to be able to change your race, it's $10 IRL that you have to pay. It's like a cash shop item.
Okay, so it's not something that you would want to do just, toggle based on how you're feeling that day, that it's not meant to
it's something that, but like, if you're feeling like, oh, I kind of like, I had a little arc for a while that I wanted to be a hot elf. So I paid the $10. I was a hot elf for a couple weeks, and now I'm back to my dumb default cat girl that looks like my VTuber model.
Yeah, and that, $10 versus the however many hundreds of hours you've invested hell yeah, you're going to take that transaction. That is a great deal.
But as far as the classes in the game, that's like that's just a feature of the game. You can go and pick up whatever you want to play as. So I'm a healer main, I'm a white mage main, but I also have, I have Astrologian, which is another healing class. I have a warrior, which is a tank class. I have all of my crafters, my gatherers. I have like a level 15 dragoon that I'm leveling. You can level any class you want and switch between them at any time.
And that you still have your
everything
full inventory
on
and
character.
all that other progress.
It's all on one character. You don't have to make 20 alts to play every single class, and that's something I love about Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
Because I like being able to try different stuff, but I don't like having to, go through
Restart.
the whole... Yeah, you have to do the whole story intro 20 times, and Final Fantasy story is so long, it'd be really tedious.
Yeah, you're having to go through that, especially with how deep it is now. It's not going to be something you'd want to do. World of Warcraft has a story, but at the same time, I think they wound up making it just a bit easier functionally to do that type of thing where you would just run the intro areas. But at the same time, I think you're very right of just saying, let's not have our players have to do that and just let them do whatever. And it still makes sense to say, all right, we don't want folks changing their race every single day, that just for a combination of probably balance purposes and also just, I'm not sure if there's any amount of like trolling or griefing that could be caused if you're able to change like that on a dime. But $10 is a reasonable enough price to make it so players are going to want to have some level of consistency and say, all right, this is a more active decision, but that it is also a very accessible decision. It's not, it's not $1,000. It's not, okay, am I going to have to buy what feels like a new game or a new console? It's not $50. At $10 it's just enough.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually, I think compared to some other MMOs, Final Fantasy is also pretty inexpensive cash shop wise if you want to buy like a name change or, the glamour items. I actually think there's some that I could questionably say, I don't know if I agree with the price, but it's actually not bad. And it doesn't have any loot boxes, which I like. I hate loot boxes.
Now, I'm very familiar with the term glamour items, but I forget. Do glamour items have any functional benefit, or is it purely aesthetic?
It's purely aesthetic, and honestly, I think Final Fantasy XIV is very like glamorous endgame for a lot of people, including myself. Like, we just want to have all the cute outfits, and there's actually a very intricate like photography community in Final Fantasy XIV. Like, there are a lot of people that just do the setting is called G pose, it's the screenshot setting, but a lot of people, they get these filters and things, and they take these really just beautiful photos of their characters or of even just the scenery in the game, and it's amazing the kind of creative shit people are doing just with the in-game screenshot camera. And it looks like real life photography. It's something that I really love about the game.
I always love when there's that option, because it's this whole new set of artistry, really. Just, all right, finding the right shot composition and finding the right, where setting wise in the game do you want to be, and what things look good and what doesn't. And depending on the items, certain articles of clothing end up being bigger, and that changes the shot composition. It's just like real photography, and that you're able to have that creative outlet, which is not something that is inherent to every game past, all right, I get to have a screenshot, but actually having that camera manipulation is understandably big.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's filters, there's, the blur and the vignette and the little sparkle particles, and then you can move around the camera angle, and you can eliminate extra stuff in the background. Like, if you don't want other characters there while you're in the middle of the city, you can clear them all out and clear out your pet and just get these really amazing shots. It's so cool. Oh. And they recently added an option as well that you can actually go into the dungeons a lot of them without the mobs spawning so that you can take pictures inside the dungeons. There's just an exploration mode that you can...
that.
Yeah, but it's also really cool, you know, if you're a lore fanatic and you want to just run around the dungeon and
just
look at all the extra
things.
little
and,
details.
You know, you're not going to find any items, you're not going to get any experience, but if you just want to see this
look
scenery,
at everything.
You have that option. I love options in game design. That is a huge thing for me of just, I don't need every feature to be for me as a player, but I really appreciate when folks take the time, and especially I feel like that is a very development-wise, that is a simple thing to implement that not a lot of games do, of just, we already have these assets. This whole thing, the lighting, the scenery, everything is already made because it's used when you have all these mobs and items and everything. And adding in, you know, a subset and one UI option to say, all right, just load up the scenery and nothing else. That's not requiring them to build any new assets. It's a bit of UI work, and you know, there is some back-end code. It is a non-zero amount of investment, but when you think about relativity in game design and what is heavy lifting and what isn't, that is a lightweight task that it's only going to appeal maybe to 5%, 10% of the population. But if you're then getting that 5-10% of your players in for tens or hundreds of extra hours because they love that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
All it cost you was maybe, I don't know, a day, a week in development time. Just the return on investment there is huge.
And I feel like Final Fantasy has added a lot of those features in. And again, it's stuff that it's not for everyone, but it pulls in all kinds of people to the game that way. They have the casual aspect, they have the hardcore aspect, they have, you can just, if you want to craft, you can just do crafting, and they have added a bunch of extra stuff for crafting. If you like grinding content, there's all the different relic weapons that take forever, and all of these stupid circumstances that you have to get through to unlock and get the final form. They've got different types of, you know, they've got the regular dungeons. They just added kind of what's an extreme dungeon that you have to go in with a party, and it's got all these extra challenges. It's really hard. They've got the savage content. They've got the photography aspect. They've got roleplay. They've got nightclubs. I have spent many Saturday nights drunk in my room at a Final Fantasy XIV nightclub.
I love that. Especially because, over the past 2 years in particular.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that was a big thing for me. You know, I was peak into Final Fantasy XIV, peak COVID-19. So this is how, you know, my friends and I on the guild, we were all hanging out together because none of us could leave our houses. So we would all get together inside our houses on Discord on a weekend, sitting in our houses drinking alone by ourselves, but we're in game, like partying in the game. And you know, again, we just had this cool community, and we don't do as much anymore because everyone, you know, we're back at work. A lot of us have new jobs since the start of this. We can't really connect as much as we used to, but you know, we used to do Christmas parties and Halloween parties, and they were honestly kind enough. My guild, when they found out that my college graduation was getting canceled due to the pandemic in person, they threw me an in-game graduation ceremony, and I broke down crying. Like, that is one of the reasons this game is so important to me, is because I've just met the most amazing people on this game, and I'm still friends with all of them. And you know, we've all just done a lot of these really good things for each other. We've had birthday parties, we've had movie nights. It's just, it's been so good. And then I think an MMO like that was a really good place to be during the pandemic.
Yeah, and it's just, there is never a good time for a pandemic to happen.
There's not.
I feel like we live in the best time for a pandemic to happen, because we have just the amount of technology that we have right now. You know, forget even the medical developments and being able to actually, you know, get a vaccine made in a year and stuff. You know, even all that aside, just the potential for socialization that if you rewind the clocks even 10, 15 years, like not that much.
Yeah, like we wouldn't have been able to stay nearly as connected as we did.
Socialization would have been so much more difficult.
Yeah.
Such a bigger pain, and that, I've seen plenty of articles and, viral stories and whatnot of similar things to your graduation that I know a lot of different events were held like that in everything from Final Fantasy XIV, other MMOs. The game that did that for me, which I know also was for a lot of people, was Animal Crossing New Horizons, which goodness knows was in the right place at the right time. Originally supposed to be released in October of 19, got delayed because they wanted to polish it, and it happened to be March of 2020.
Take notes, Game Freak.
And just, it is sort of astounding to think of from a historical perspective of, the extra polish aside, but there was a very unique level of just community in the gaming sphere and in even non-gaming spheres of Animal Crossing get-togethers in those early months of the pandemic. That I threw a birthday party for one of my siblings in Animal Crossing. On my birthday, they threw a party for me as well on mine. And
that's so cute.
That for my birthday, that my birthday's in June, so I just put out an all call to everybody that I knew that had Animal Crossing. I was like, hey, pick a time that day to come to my island for an hour, and we'll, have a call on Discord and just catch up. And like, that was how I spent my birthday that year. This is a story I've told several times, so I'm going to keep it brief, but part of the reason that Vtuber Talk exists is because I saw a guy named Gary Whitta, who is the screenwriter from a couple movies, including Star Wars Rogue One and Book of Eli, who, since Hollywood shut down, decided to start a talk show in the basement of his Animal Crossing house, called it Animal Talking. He had everyone, Josh Gad, Phil Spencer, Matt Mercer, Brie Larson. He had big names because he got in on the ground floor when the IRL folks like, Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert were scrambling to get their remote setups done. And he ran that for a while, doesn't do it anymore. But because I had seen that and it became appointment viewing for me, when I fell into the VTuber rabbit hole and realized, okay, I don't want to be a VTuber, but I want to do something that thinking of Animal Talking is what gave me the light bulb moment of, oh, a talk show. And here we are.
Well, and I think the pandemic really heavily committed to VTubing as well.
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
A bunch of people, including myself, we lost our jobs because of the pandemic. Like, I worked on my college campus previously, and campus closed down because of this pandemic. I didn't have a job anymore. So I started, I turned back to my art. I started streaming my art again, and just, for something to do so I didn't go absolutely crazy, but also for a source of income because I didn't have one. And here we are. Now here I am, almost 3 years later.
That for content creation as a whole, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, but especially streaming, that streaming had obviously been around for a while, but the pandemic created the circumstance where a lot of people who weren't really into streaming either got into it as streamers or just as viewers. And without a doubt, VTubing is a beneficiary of that, of being in the right place at the right time, that it was already growing, for sure. But there is no doubt in my mind that the sheer amount of growth is directly a result of, like you said, well, you can't go outside, you can't see friends in real life, so you're going to do stuff virtually, and a lot of folks have a lot of free time on their hands now, and, well, you want to do something with that time, and we now have all this.
Yeah, I think it was, like, right place, right time for VTubing to really start rising to popularity during the pandemic, because people were working from home, they could have something on their screen, and people also just needed something to do like I did, and so they started streaming, and they found for me, I was always an artist, and I started to see VTubers popping up more and more, and I was like, I want to try to make one. And so I did, and now here I am.
And I've never thought of it. So I've had this conversation with many guests. I don't know how many. It's not something that comes up every show, but I'd say 25% of the shows I do, there's some form of this conversation of, VTubing was a big deal, and especially because folks couldn't go out during the past several years. But just now, I realized what I think is another layer of why VTubing in particular took off. And it's the visual. It's not the visual of, there's a character model and it's a cute anime girl or, a neat robot or whatever. But the fact that you weren't seeing somebody in their office or bedroom.
Yeah.
Because you are used to seeing, your house, your room, all these hours of every day. And that for face cam streamers, even though you're seeing those folks and that there is that entertainment, there's that constant reminder of, they're inside, they're in this small room doing their thing. Whereas VTubers were able to have their own backgrounds, their own environments. You can do those as an IRL streamer. It's not going to work as well, though. But for VTubers, you can create an entirely new thing and not have that small but persistent reminder of you're inside. And so are they. And that little bit, what people needed and wanted was just a bit of an escape, a bit of entertainment. And until now, I never really wondered was there any factor for face cam streamers of just that background of seeing a room and realizing that's kind of like the room I'm in, and we're in our rooms all day.
Yeah.
And just
let me out.
And just
please
not
let me out.
And that VTubers bypassed that. So yeah, like that was. It's weird that it's gone this long for me to have that epiphany, but I just had an epiphany in real time.
Hanging out with VTubers will do that to you. It fucks with your brain a little bit.
For you, was there anything just you mentioned that you started with art, and I know you haven't done a whole bunch of art recently, but I think I actually saw a tweet from you recently saying that you're looking to get back into art again.
Yeah, I really am. I've been struggling with my art for a very long time for a couple of reasons. Partially, I kind of don't like my art style anymore, so it's kind of hard for me to draw because I like it, but I don't love it. But it also, I think for me right now, I'm stuck in this place that I keep communicating with. I still have a couple of outstanding commissions from almost a year ago that I've been working through, and I feel like, I looked back really recently at what I used to do, and I think I got to this point with art that I just needed an income source, and I stopped drawing for myself, and I was only taking commissions, and I think I just got burned out. I think it just kind of killed it for me because I wasn't doing it for myself anymore. I was doing it as a job and not as a hobby. So I think that once I finish up my current commissions, finally, I'm really going to take a break, and I really want to reopen my commissions because I have people that want art, but I also want to just take some time for myself and kind of find my passion again and kind of learn to love it again. Because I think I just burned myself out and I turned it too much into work, and it just became not fun to work on anymore. I lost the motivation because I just think of it as this is something I have to get done, and not something that, I was thinking just the other day as I was working on my Christmas model about how I used to just, when I was in high school and college, I would just sit in my room and watch YouTube or watch a show and draw, just make something. And I don't do that anymore. And I was like, why don't I do that anymore? Oh, right, because I have these commissions I still haven't gotten done. And I feel guilty doing anything else. So I think for me, I still really love doing art, but it's really becomes something that I need to do for myself again, rather than doing it for other people for a while. Because I feel like I just kind of killed it for myself.
Yeah, and that can happen, especially it's such a delicate balance for anything that starts as a hobby and then becomes a source of income. That even for streaming, I've seen a lot of people, whether it be artists, writers, streamers, that you start out doing something fun, you have a great time, but when there becomes an obligation, either in terms of commission or just the pressure of knowing, okay, I need to make a certain amount of money to make ends meet.
Yeah.
That it adds that inherent level of stress, and that you're not able to regulate your time as effectively to help stave off burnout, and that burnout is it is a very real and very bad thing.
It's killer. It's honestly killer. Like I said, I just finished up one of them, I want to say like a week or two ago. I'm still working through the other two. I've had these commissions sitting around for almost a year, if not a year. I used to never let my stuff sit this long. I would get it and I would get it done. And I can't anymore, because it just feels like something that it's like, this is a task. You have to do it. They paid you to do it. You can't back out now. You have to get it done. And it is stuff I want to draw, but it's just my brain processes it as this task that has to be finished, rather than this thing that's fun for me to do. And then it's like, I think this comes with a lot of burnout when you start putting off a task. Then you get that added level of anxiety of they're probably really upset with me because I've been taking so long.
And then it's sort of a vicious
looking at it
cycle
makes
of the
me
aversion
anxious,
of,
and now I don't want to do it again. Yeah. So I kind of got to that point.
Well, at the very least, I'm glad that it takes a level of awareness to realize, oh, I'm burning out, or I am burnt out. And even if it took a while to get there, the realization, the understanding of, okay, I need to change something is the first step of just figuring out, all right, what is the pathway to fixing the situation? And sometimes it is just taking a break, or in some cases, like you said, that you're just going to stop commissions. So you're not necessarily going to stop doing art altogether, but that since, at least in this case, sometimes the source of burnout can be very nebulous. Sometimes you need to sort of reverse engineer your own psychology and figure out, okay, what is it that is causing this burnout? Because I'm still enjoying some things, but for some reason I keep hitting the snag. But in this case, it's pretty clear. Just, you want to be able to do art for yourself. And that means that the answer is simple, and it's just, all right, we're going to stop commissions.
Yeah, and the lucky thing is that VTubing is actually kind of what brought me to that realization, because alongside the commissions for the past 4 or 5 months, I was working on this model for my re-debut that was back in September. And I think what helped me realize was that I was having a ton of fun working on this model for myself, because I was doing whatever the fuck I wanted. And then I would go to work on my commissions and I just hit a wall. So it really is. It's like the burnout of doing it for yourself versus for work.
Yeah.
And
there's
I think I really got the realization that I needed to do it. So now I'm kind of finally pushing myself through, like, okay, if you get this done, you can take a break and do it for yourself again.
And it's also good that you had the mental realization of, while you were working on your model for the stream, which is, again, another source of income for you, that at least at this point in time, you do not mentally classify that as work. That it seems the particular angle is that it is still for you and not for somebody else who has those other expectations, that you can decide when it is for you, when it is enough, what is good, what you want to do, everything. Whereas when it is for a client, there is everything that it comes with having a client.
Exactly. And I think that's one reason that, despite everything, despite how passionate I am about streaming and content creation, and how much I would love to stream full time, I am sort of glad that I don't right now. And I'm kind of glad that I still have my, IRL day job too, because I think if I was trying to rely on streaming as my sole source of income, it wouldn't be fun for me anymore.
Oh, I'm the exact same way.
You know, it's definitely an extra source of income, but for me, more than anything, it's just something I have fun with. This is where I get to, you know, take all of my pent up gremlin energy and let it all out and just do whatever I want and hang out with some really cool people and just play games. And I think if streaming ever becomes more than that for me, I'll stop enjoying it.
Yeah,
part of me really wants to be able to devote all of my time to it. But I think if I add like the income factor and like the work factor into it, I'm not going to want to do it anymore.
Yeah, it's that balance of, okay, I know I want to do it more. I'd love to do this all the time. But what comes with that? And
exactly.
I'm the exact same way, that I designed Vtuber Talk extremely deliberately to be as simple, as stress-free, but just, you know, as fun and as high quality as I could, while making sure that there wasn't anything extra put on myself. That I do about one show a week, sometimes two if schedules line up for the guests. That's fine. I have not monetized my channel. I haven't even taken affiliate. Initially, that was partially because I was tinkering with the concept of doing dual streaming on YouTube, which I haven't done yet, but I wanted to leave that avenue open. But also that I am fortunate enough to have a day job that I enjoy and that pays my bills, and that I am not in a position where I need to find an alternate source of income. And also just by virtue of being a talk show that, you know, this show does not exist without the guests. I had a donation link up for a short time for the first year, actually, and any donations that came in were split 50-50 with the guest. I think I got a total of 6 donations, and I took down the link to put up the charity drive link this January, and at the end of the charity drive, I just didn't put my donation link back up. And I am okay running this as a passion project, just on the side, keeping it very light touch, and it has been everything I hoped for and more in that regard.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. Like I will put dono goals up, you know, if I'm trying to save up for something like for my family or an emergency expense, but I don't, or obviously, you know, my charity streams, but I don't really want to force my community to ever give me anything. And, you know, when they do, I'm like, oh God, no, don't give me your money. Don't give me your money. Please keep it for yourself. I'm just a small gremlin. But, you know, also, like, it's nice to have that little extra source of income from all those subs and everything, you know? Like, it helps out at least on top of my job.
Yeah, for sure. But it's really nice that you've been able to find that balance that works for you, because, you know, for everyone it's different. That for some folks, doing it full time is viable, and that they have figured out how mentally to have that balance and make sure that things stay fun and fresh for them, and that they don't end up overworking themselves, because some folks you do see end up hitting that wall of that they will start off really strong and just dive in, and then, you know, 6 months down the line, they're just like, hey, I need to stop. And that there have been a couple of folks that, you know, fortunately, this is a rare circumstance, but, you know, every so often you see someone just outright graduate or just stop. Like, no announcement, you just no longer see them stream, and they didn't post anymore on Twitter or anything, that they just vanish because they got into a place where they knew they just had to sort of cut ties. And sometimes that is the healthiest option. Sometimes you get to a point where you realize you need to just sort of cut your losses and say, all right, you need to go cold turkey. And it is extremely unfortunate when that becomes the answer, even if it is the right answer in certain cases. But I always encourage folks to, you know, like I said, have that awareness. And it's great that you have that awareness to make sure that you don't burn out on art itself entirely. Because that's what could happen if stuff like that goes unchecked, of just this thing that is an obvious passion of yours, something that you said you've done this for years, you know, starting all the way with doodling. And I I would hate to ever see an artist who just, because of commissions and other commitments, get to the point where they just don't even want to doodle. Like, that's a tragedy.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's something with streaming too. But something else I've always told people, I've had people occasionally, they're like, how do I start as a VTuber? And I think the best advice I've ever seen that I have passed along after seeing it is I see, especially with like the big surge of VTubers I want to see in the past year, they would, drop thousands of dollars on their model, their overlays.
Use a PNG first.
Yeah, use a PNG first and stream a little bit. Because a lot of people, they've never streamed. And they don't know what it's like. They don't know what to do. They don't know, they don't know how to manage a stream. They don't know if they're going to like streaming. Some people, they're going to hit go live. They're going to get super anxious when they see that they've only got, 5 viewers at the start. And they're going to be like, why didn't I get popular? I want to be a VTuber. And I think there's such a, I don't know if stigma is the right word. It's probably not. But, you see all these VTubers, they pop up with their model and their fancy overlays and their little animated preview videos and their partner in 2 weeks. And I think people expect that to happen. They don't see it happen. They just quit. And they've already dropped all this money. I think it's best to stream it, stream with a PNG and see if you even like streaming. Because a lot of people, they want to do it, but the passion isn't there.
Yeah,
like they don't actually enjoy content creation.
That you can enjoy the concept and say, ooh, that seems cool. I want to do that thing. But it's certainly something that you don't know how it is for you until you actually do the thing. And you're right that there have been some folks that have debuted with a lot of investment, not just time, but money. And that if it doesn't pan out for any number of reasons of just, like you said, they realize they don't enjoy it, or even just life circumstances, that if time commitments change, if their job situation changes, that they might have to stop for completely unrelated things, but then they're still out $1,000 because they bought a really, really nice model right out of the gate.
Exactly.
And that,
and VTubing is an investment, especially now that there's so many advancements in live 2D and in 3D technology. A decent rig is at least $1,000. A decent model is at least $1,000, which is why I made mine myself, because I don't have that kind of money. But well, still, it's like
you still have the skill to make what you've made.
Oh yeah, and it took forever. It was such a learning curve. Live 2D art is so different from just drawing for yourself. Like, to just draw a flat image versus drawing a VTuber model, it's such a learning curve. Like, even if you're already coming from an art background, to learn how to draw it and separate all those pieces and, make it look good when it's moving instead of just being this flat painted image, it's so crazy to try and figure it all out.
So to confirm,
and Live 2D is so advanced.
You did the rigging as well for your model, not just the art.
I did. I taught myself Live 2D. EROS helped me out a little bit with a lot of things because she also rigged her own models, all of hers.
Yeah.
But both of us just learned a lot from, YouTube tutorials and Googling and basically, and I don't want to say Live 2D is easy to learn. It does definitely have a big learning curve. And, as someone who's just done some basic movement, I'm not a professional and there's a lot of more intricate things that I don't know how to do. But it's not terrible to pick up, especially if you've worked in things like video editing programs before, because it's basically a lot of just, set the frame and when you move this way, it does this, and when you move this way, it does this, and when you blink your eyes, they blink. But it's definitely a learning curve, to say the least.
For sure, yeah. So I do know that we're gonna wrap up a bit. We're gonna wrap up in a bit. So I do have a couple of last questions that I ask all my guests. The first is, do you have any goals for, I'm changing it now, it's usually been you have any goals for the rest of the year for 2022? But I'm going to change that to, do you have any goals for next year, for 2023?
I have a couple. I want to release a few more song covers. One of my 2022...
We didn't get to talk about the song cover that you released, that we wound up going so just crazy on a lot of things, and don't get me wrong, it's been
I think we
so
both went
fun.
off on some tangents.
But they were good tangents, Bun.
They were very good tangents.
No regrets. But, you know, there's a lot of things we didn't get to discuss tonight, one of which was the fact that you just released a Christmas cover.
I did! I just released it yesterday, and I did it all by myself. It was really weird to do it all by myself, because my first actual song cover that I released with my re-debut, I went through a really talented music producer, Shiro Beats. Shiro's fucking amazing, and also does a bunch of work with VShojo, and I'm very lucky that
I'm pretty sure I've heard the name Shiro Beats somewhere.
Shiro has done a bunch of mixing for Iron Mouse, and worked on the recent VShojo cover of Zombies by Deckronomicon. And I'm very grateful that Shiro's also willing to work with me, because I'm small. I'm just a baby. I'm still very new to music, and apparently, I don't know what I did, but Shiro likes me enough to work with me. So, I'm
That's
very
awesome.
lucky. But yeah, I just released a Christmas cover too.
But I'm not going to ask what songs you're planning to release in the future. I'm going to let you keep that close to your chest. But let the good folks at home know, if they don't already, what was this Christmas cover? Because I want you to say it, because it's great.
I did a cover of a Christmas parody, kind of like joke Christmas song called "Fuck You If You Don't Like Christmas" by Crud Bump. It is now on my YouTube channel if you want to take a listen. It's just like
so
a dumb
fun.
joke Christmas song.
Basically, it boils down to let people have fun. Let people have their fun.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, fuck you if you don't celebrate Christmas. It's, you know, I don't celebrate Christmas. I love the concept of Christmas. I love powders. I think powders are freaking adorable. I love seeing Christmas light displays. They're gorgeous, and it's just so nice to see every year. You know, growing up, I love just looking around the neighborhood and seeing what people put up, and just, you know, the festive spirit.
I love Christmas lights. They're so fucking pretty, dude.
But,
we used to, when I was a kid, we would like drive around my grandma, because she was my great grandma, so she was like 90 something. She never left her house half the time. We brought her groceries and everything, but it was like the one time a year she would leave the house. My mom and I would go pick her up, and we would drive her around her neighborhood to see all the Christmas lights. And she would like, you know, she would tell us like, oh, this used to be this instead of what it is right now, and oh, this person used to live in this house like 30 years ago, and I don't know who's there now. And she would tell us all these really cool stories.
It becomes a history lesson.
Yeah, and it was so cool.
That's awesome. That's so cool. That it would become a thing that maybe once a week or so, starting first week of December usually, that my parents would, you know, get my siblings and I in the car, and we would just drive around the neighborhood and, you know, see the different lights, and be cool to see, you know, second, third week of December, which ones have been added, because the first week it's sort of an I Spy game of, okay, who's early, who's been, you know, getting their stuff right out of the gate. But then by the time third, fourth week of December rolls around, it's just seeing all the different ones.
It's
maybe
everyone.
Going to, you know, maybe driving an extra 5 minutes to see a slightly different neighborhood, to see what's going on over there.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, a fun little thing. And that's really what the song is about. You know, it keeps veering off into different areas of, you know, fuck you if you don't like dogs. And it's just...
it's just a dumb song.
It's fuck you if you don't like things that make people happy.
Yeah.
It's the bottom line of let people be happy.
It's a dumb song, but it's one of my favorite
But it's really good.
dumb
It's very
songs.
fun. So definitely check that out for sure. You know, we talked about tangents, just got off on one. So, but the goal for next year, one of them is to release a couple more songs. Do you have any other goals for next year?
Yeah, I want to finally have a 3D model. I've wanted a 3D model since I started streaming, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it might be happening. I don't know yet.
Well, you have a whole year to accomplish that goal.
So that's my other big goal, is I really want to finally have a 3D model.
And then the last question I ask all my guests is, what does being a VTuber mean to you? And that's not what is the definition of a VTuber, but for some folks, I've had people say being a VTuber lets me get in touch with my inner child, or it lets me be someone that I can't be in real life. I've had others take a more perhaps clinical answer and say it is a tool in my toolbox as a actor and a content creator. And that, we talk about, Twitch integrated throwing system, or just all the different fun things you can do with the model. And that for them, that being a VTuber is all about being able to do different things, even if they don't necessarily have the type of emotional attachment to their model that some have. But both of those answers, everything beyond in between it, is completely legitimate, is completely valid. But different people do get different things from VTubing. So for you, Bun, what does being a VTuber mean to you?
I think for me, VTubing is, and this is going to be really sappy coming from me who is never serious ever, it's a confidence boost for me, and it's something that has really helped me kind of be more myself and pursue things that I was always very anxious to pursue otherwise. Like I wanted to always, I've always wanted to stream more than just my art. When I first started streaming, I was muted. I just played music. I typed in chat. I drew pictures, simple stuff. And then I unmuted myself and I started talking. And then I started having my model and I was more animated because I was always too scared to have a face cam because I'm very self-conscious about myself. But, VTubing has also become this space that I can just go off with my own sense of humor on my own tangents, and people don't think I'm being loud or obnoxious or, talking over them or anything like that. It's been a space that I can pursue things I'm passionate about, but I was always anxious to do in front of other people, like singing. I used to, before I started streaming, and, even now, I just very recently started singing on stream and trying to pursue music a bit more seriously. I used to just sing by myself in my car, or like if I was home alone, because I didn't think anyone would think I was any good, and I didn't want anyone to hear me and be like, oh my God, she sounds like shit. So it's really been a space that has boosted my confidence. And I think, I don't want to say that the avatar itself has done that confidence boost for me entirely. I also put it very much toward the community I've built as a VTuber, that they're so amazingly supportive of me and everything I do. Like I can whip out my automaton and my kazoo and just start going off, and they're gonna tell me it sounds beautiful because they're nice, and then they're gonna tell me I smell after, but that's okay,
and that you're a dog.
Because yes, but it balances out. In the end, they're pretty okay, I guess. So I think that's what VTubing is for me.
That's fantastic. And I always ask that question at the end of the show, one, because I feel like it kind of puts a nice bow on everything, but also, while I never know what a guest is going to say as their answer, the answers always make sense. And especially after speaking with someone for a couple hours, that just based on the types of conversations that we've had tonight, that it being, a combination of just confidence booster, and you also said it's that outlet where you are able to let out all that gremlin energy that is pent up throughout the day. That, as always, it definitely makes sense. And I just cannot thank you enough for coming out and being on the show today, for sharing all these stories and memories. And even if we didn't get to discuss everything we'd like to, we actually are going to have a chance to soon, because like I said, in January, I'm hoping to have you back if your schedule allows. And hopefully we'll be able to pick up a couple different topics that we didn't get to today. And if anything, that's kind of nice to have in the back pocket, because, especially for the guests that are right before the charity marathon, it could sometimes be a struggle of, all right, well, we just talked 2 weeks ago. What didn't we just cover? And we already have a whole bunch of things like Love Live. I wanted to ask you a lot of stuff about Love Live.
Okay, talk to me right now. Talk to me about Love Live. I will make time. I will make time.
Love Live Season 2, sorry. Yeah, Love Live Season 2 for the original series came out during my senior year of college, and I identified with the graduating senior thing a bit too much, and boy, did I get teary-eyed.
Oh, did you cry? Did you cry?
I cried a little bit at the end there, and because I was very involved in music. I was in marching band and an orchestra in college, and music group populated with friends. And the thing of graduating seniors and the concept of, the group will go on without you, or will go on without you in certain ways. Just, it hit very personally airing in the spring of that year when I'm
bet
weeks away from my own graduation.
For me, Love Live never quite hit me in that emotional sense, other than I did cry once when I was watching one of the live concerts just because I was being sentimental. For me, it was more so that I love idol culture, and again, as someone who I used to be very closeted with my performing, but I always wanted to be an idol. I wanted to go perform, but then I was like, if I go on stage right now, I'll choke. I will actually choke up. And I used to be in an idol group very briefly, and we didn't sing, but we performed the dances at conventions, and it was like that little taste of it that I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. And I really, really enjoyed it. I really did.
I'm gonna save most of it for another day. Like I said, hopefully in January. But you had mentioned to me when we were talking earlier in the week, just a little bit, and there's a lot more questions that I do want to ask as follow-ups.
Yeah.
But I know that we could go for just an entire another hour on that probably. So I am going to let you go because I know that you have some other things to tend to. But again, this has been a fantastic show. Just like 2.5 hours, blink of an eye.
Yeah, I know. It was crazy.
This has been a total blast. Honestly, cannot thank you enough.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Pleasure's all mine. Do you have somebody that you would like us to raid?
Oh, let me see who's streaming. Let me look at some of my friends. Who's streaming? I would say either EROS or May.
Both previous guests. I can't pick one over the other. You make the call.
Fuck it. Go to EROS. Go to EROS.
All right, yeah. And you know what? I don't know
EROS
if you know.
is something else I could be very sentimental about for like at least an hour. She's my best friend, so we'll go to EROS.
I'm not sure if you know, she did my logo.
Did she?
Yeah.
That's why it looks so good.
The logo there at the top of the screen, reach out to her for that, because I saw her work, and it was after I had her on the show, it was like, by the way, I'm actually interested in getting a logo, because for the first year of Vtuber Talk, I just had, text Vtuber Talk at the top of the screen, and that was my celebration for my first anniversary of that. I wanted to commission a logo, and that I commissioned Eros, and she did a great job, and that to this day that she is listed in the credits panel down here on Twitch. She's in the video description of every YouTube release. And she did a fantastic job with, frankly, minimal direction, because I'm super uncreative. I was like, I want something that looks
amazing.
Kind of,
She does amazing.
Basically, all I gave her was, I want it to look relatively clean and professional, blue, gray, blackish, darker, sharper types of tones. And she comes back with this on the first draft and was like, I love it. This is perfect.
Yeah, she made my logo as well. She's made both of my logos for my old model that I used to stream with and my current logo. So she does absolutely amazing work. And she's just an amazing person. Her. I love Eros.
Seriously, such a fun personality, such a fun streamer. So everybody in chat right now, thank you so much for coming out. This has been episode 87 of VTuber Talk, and you all are actually going to get a taste of all the fun and craziness that is EROS. So thank you all for coming. Tell her that Bun sent you, and I will see you all next time.